Moving on with the next topic, we're going to learn about how to insert a data into a database, right? So in the last class we learned about how to compare the data with the database and entered in the form, but here we are going to see how to insert the data into the form directly, right? So before that, what we have to do, we have to start our XAMPP. So let me start XAMPP. So here you'll have to start your Apache server and also your MySQL server for phpMyAdmin, that is your database, right? So once you started this, you can go to the database now. Here you will have to type localhost/phpMyAdmin. So this will take you to your database, right? So this we have already learned about the database, so not much spending time on it. So what we are going to do, we are going to first create a table, right? So here I have already created a table. I've created a database called demo, and inside that I've created a table called persons, right? So when I click on this persons, you can see first name, last name and email. You can see first underscore name, last underscore name and email. So there are two values which are already there. So let me do one thing. Let me delete the values which is already here. So here I'm going to go to SQL where 1 is equal to 2. Why? Because there are two values in that. So I have deleted that, right? So 2. Now what your current selection does not contain unique column. Okay, let me do one thing. Delete where equals 2, right? So again go click on this. You can see 2 rows affected. When you come back to browse, there's nothing in that data, right? So there's nothing, it is empty. The table is empty now. So what we have to do, we have to insert. To insert, first of all, we have to create a form. So let me show you. Here is a form which I've created already. As you can see, document type, HTML language, all these things are available in a structure of HTML. So once you click exclamatory mark and tab, you can get a whole structure of it. Next, form, I've created a form. Action I've given as insert.php. This insert.php, I've created one more file here. So there I'll write my PHP code, right? So here I'm only writing my HTML codes, and that is why I've given this insert.html, right? So again, here I've given insert.php. After this, first name, that is your first name, same name I have given here, first name. Then last name, I've given last name. This is very important. You have to understand this name is very important because using PHP, you are retrieving this value. Whatever you enter, you are retrieving this through this value, right? So that is why this name is very important. Whatever you give here should be also mentioned there also, right? In PHP also. Again, you have last name here. Then you have email here, right? So again, there is a submit button. So how to see this output? What you can do, go here, localhost, because this is our server, localhost / I've created in form /insert.html, right? So this is our file. So as you can see, there's a form here, first name, last name and email address, and there's a submit button over here, correct? Now, so whenever I click on this submit button, it will revert back to this insert.php here, right? So it will revert back to this particular file. So now I'll go here and I'll just explain you what I have done here. Previously we learned about how to compare between a database and the entered form data, but here we are going to insert the values to the database in the form itself, right? So let us check what have we done here. Here, as you can see, first I've opened this PHP, I've saved this file as insert.php, PHP open tag, then I've created a variable called link, and in that MSQLi connect. So this will connect to our database, localhost root. This is the password. So password, there is nothing, so I've not given anything there. This is our database name demo. So I'll show you once again. This is our database demo, right? So after that, what I'm going to do, you can see if link is equal to forms. That means if the connection is not made to the database, then we will say an error called could not connect or MySQL connect error. If it is false, if it is true, it will not execute this part of the code, right? It will directly connect to the database. Now we have a variable called $firstname. So inside the $firstname, I'm gonna store this particular entered value in this particular variable, right? You can see first name here. So requesting the first name. So whenever you enter the form data, that form data will be taken into this variable here, right? The same thing for last name as well. So here last name I have given. So this is the syntax of how to actually use MySQLi real escape string. It escapes the string. So all these things are here. You'll just have to see the code properly, and in place of this name you'll have to write your own form data which you are creating there, right? So this is about first name and last name. Same thing for email as well. So in email also you have given email here, right? So coming down, now I have written the SQL command. To write SQL commands you will have to use $SQL. You can see this $SQL, right? So you will have to use the $SQL there. Now as you know how to insert data, it is very simple. You can go here and you can just click on insert, right? So SQL, you can see when you click on this insert, you can see this insert into persons, all these things, right? So this is the syntax of how to insert a data. The same way here also you will have to use this insert into table name. This persons is a table name. So let me show you the table name. You can see this database is demo and table is persons, right? So insert into persons of first name. This name and this name should match. Let me show you. This name and whatever you give here, that should be the same thing, right? So as you can see, first name, last name and email, same thing is here. First name, last name and email, right? So again, now values, what are the values of that? So that values you should not enter here. You will have to take it from the form, right? So to take it from the form, you can directly add these variables here. You can see $first name, $last name and $email. So what I'm going to do here, I am going to add the same variables here for all the three things here like this, right? So what does it do now? It will take the form data. So whenever you enter the data now, that data is connecting in this particular format and it is inserting into the database. As you can see, insert command is used here and that is why it is inserting into the database. Now there's a if condition I have given here. If MySQL query, that means if you query the database using this SQL command, if it is executed properly, then it says records added successfully. If it is not executed properly, then it says error. As you can see, echo records added. If it is successful, then it says successfully. Then it is, if it is error, then it says error message here. Right, so again close the connection. To close the connection, you can use MySQL close of this particular link. Link is nothing but this particular link here. Right, so let us see this actual output. How do we get it? So here what I'm going to do, you can see there's empty here, right? So here I'm going to add my name, my last name and my email address. I'm going to click on submit and it says records added successfully. If I go back, there's nothing here. But when I refresh it, you can see my name has been added. My name, first name has been added, last name has been added and email ID has been added. The same way what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back once again, refresh. I'm going to add some other name here. Okay. So let me add NC here. Again, I'm going to add this. Again, if I want to add some other email, I'm going to add this email. You can see this NC Nayak and email address. Again, click on submit. It says records added successfully, but here it is not there. Refresh it, you'll get it. You can see it is added now. So it is directly adding it to the database, right? Since it is not taking full because I have given only the structure here, I have given only 20 characters. So after 20 characters, it will not be added. So that is what you will have to change that. So change that, just click on this change and you can add 30 as well here for last name, or you can add it for email as well. So maybe I'm going to change for the email here. So here I'm going to add the length as 30. So save it. Now again go back to browse. Now it has become 30. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to add it once again. So let me go back, add it. Same thing I'm going to add, or maybe I'm going to add different here, right? So maybe let the email ID be more than 20. So this is more than 20, submit it. Now records added successfully. Now go back, again click on refresh. Now you can see the full email will be displayed. Why? Because I just changed the length of that particular value over there. Last name I have not given anything and that is why it did not appear there, right? So you can see last name was given nothing, but if I give last name and submit again, it again says the same thing, and next time it will tell my whole name, right? So this is how you can use insert, right? So you can create different insert commands. Maybe you can create first name, last name, email, ID, employee details, right? This is how actually people store the data in the database using form. So remember here, you will have to include this. That means you'll have to include this name. You'll have to take that from here. if there is a mistake here, maybe for example I'm going to add this, so now there is an error. So let me show you what happens now. Refresh. I'm going to add this, I'm going to add this, again I'm going to add, click on submit. It says undefined index. Why? Because this name and this doesn't match, and that is why we are getting an error. So you'll have to remember this particular thing here, and whatever you give here should be the same. If it is not the same, your commands won't be executed and you'll get some errors like this, right? So again, if I go back and check, you can see my first name will not be added. Second name and last name email has been added. My first name will not be added. Why? Because we had an error here. Correct? So this is how you can use insert command while you are doing your projects. The next thing we are going to learn about is how to actually display the data which is already there in the database. Right? So let me show you. Here we have around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 data here. So I want this to display on my page. Now how do we do it? For that you'll have to write a separate code. So I have created a separate code called display.php. So here I have included HTML as well. You can see HTML body, all these things are here, and I have added PHP. So here what I'm going to do, I'm going to connect to the database now. That is username equals root, password equals nothing. I have not given any password for my database. Then we have database. Database name is demo. MySQLi new, that is object creation, and I have given MySQLi of localhost is a server name. Again $username will be taken from here. Now I am querying the database called select star from person. Star means everything in the database, right? Everything whatever is there in the table, it is selecting everything in that. That is persons is the table, and star means everything. Now echo table, I've created a table now. So table, in the table I've given some stylings here. All these things you can do it directly. And again I've given this table data, that is first name, last name and email. How to retrieve that? To retrieve that I'll have to query this. Now how do we do it? If result, now what is this result? You can see if result is equal to $SQL of query, that means I've queried already. You can see this query, I've already queried that. This select star from person, we have already queried it, right? So if it is true, while row is result, that means if the array is fetched from the database, when this particular thing is fetched from the database row wise, then I'll have to display the data, whatever I have got the data, I'll have to display it using the rows here, right? So the same thing I've done here. You can see first name, last name and email. So I'm displaying the data row wise, right? So again here I'm retrieving the data here. To display the data on the page, web page, you'll have to use table data here. Table data dot field name. So you are retrieving this now. So to retrieve this, you'll have to use dot operator. So dot field 1 name, dot field 2 name and dot field 3 name. So I'm retrieving it, and result is equal to free. So I'm freeing the querying, stopping the query now. So if I have to see the output, I'll go back. Instead of PHP, insert.php, I'm going to use display.php. So when I click on display.php, you can see all the data is available here. Whatever data is here, it is available here also. Correct? So let me do one thing. Let me show you again. I'm going to insert one more data. So I'm going to insert here. Again, I'm going to insert some other name. Maybe I'm going to insert as AAA. Again, I'm going to do something like this. Again, all the three things I've done submitted. So records added successfully. When I refresh it, you can see AAA is added here. Again, if I go back and refresh this, you can see this is also been added, right? So once you make changes in the database, or once you make changes in the form, the same thing happens with other things also, and it will automatically be updated with the database, so through the server, right? So this is how you can actually display the data using that. So we have learned about how to create a database, how to create a table, how to insert a table directly in the database, how to display the database items in the web page, how to insert the data into the database using a PHP as well, right? So you can do that, and how to compare the data for a login ID, login page, how to actually do a login page, right? So we have already learnt about it. So this was about your SQL. So now we are going to learn about object oriented programming, also called as OOP. Now what is this basically? Now see, PHP supports OOPS concept from PHP 5. PHP 5 onwards, OOPS concept is supported, and the recent version is 7.1, right? So coming back to the main point, that is OOP stands for object oriented programming. Procedural programming is about writing procedures or functions, right? It is greatly mentioned for procedures and functions that perform operations on data. But while this particular OOP concept is about creating objects that contain both data and function. But in procedures, you will have to write a procedure, you will have to write a function. But if you use OOP here, both data and functions can be stored by creating an object, right? So why is it very important, or why it is advantageous? So let me tell you, these are the advantages of OOP's concept over procedural programming. OOP is very fast and easier to execute, right? So it is very easier to execute. OOPs provide a clear structure for the programs. It provides a proper structure about how to create a class, create a constructor, or create an object. Now there's a proper statements, proper clear structure for programs. Now OOPs helps to keep the PHP code dry. Don't repeat yourself. Dry means don't repeat yourself, and makes the code easier to maintain, modify and debug. Now when you use OOP concept in PHP, it becomes very easy for us to actually maintain the code, modify the code and debug the code as well. Now also OOPs makes it possible to create few reusable applications with less code and shortened development time. So basically this is very important. Now let me tell you, DRY, that is don't repeat yourself, is like a principle. It is about reducing the repetition of code, right? So this is like a principle for that. Now class. Now what is a class and what is an object? Now classes and objects are very important aspects of OOP concept, right? So class is like a template for object. So class is like a superlative, that is like a template for object. Inside that particular class you have different objects, right? So this is how it goes. Inside that class you will be having a particular objects. Now class is the template for objects, or object is an instance of class. So that is what this is told. A class is defined by using a class keyword followed by the name of the class and pair of curly braces. This is the syntax of creating a class, right? So all its properties and method goes inside that particular braces. If you do it outside, that is not a class. In a class, variables are called properties and functions are called as methods. Now variables are called as properties, functions are called as methods, right? So this is how the code goes. That is the syntax of this particular thing. So let me do one thing now. Let me show you how to actually create a class in PHP. So let me create a file called class.php. So after creating a file, let me add the definition, that is your class declaration. What I'm going to do, class space, I'm going to use some other thing. Maybe I'm going to use car. You can give any different class name, right? So after this, you'll have to end this with this, right? So this is the class now. Now in this class, you have not given anything, right? This is basically a syntax of how do you declare a class. Now what happens? Now we'll have to use how to define the class as well. So let me do one thing. Let me add different variables to it. That is public variables. I'm going to add public variables. $. I'm going to add car. You have quad, right? So quad is one. Next you have public. You have sedan. So there are two variables which I have created right now. For that I'll have to create a function as well to display something, right? So function space, I am getting name of what I'm going to use. I'm going to use quad. So name of quad, open this function. Now I'm going to use this pointer here. So this pointer I'm going to explain what does it do. This pointer I'm going to use here. This of particular quad here is equal to, I'm going to use quad, right? So now what I'm going to use, again I'm going to create a function for the second one, that is to get that. So basically to get this, I'm going to use one more function, that is get name. What I'm going to do, I'm going to call this function or like this, right? So open this. Here what I'm going to do, I'm going to return it now. Return $, this of, I'm going to return the quad. Close it. After this, let me close it. Now let me open this and see the output. We have not given anything there, so let me see the output. So class.php. There's nothing because we have not given anything over there. It is just a declaration of how the class is called, right? So for that, if you want to displace it something, I'm going to show you how to do it. So before that, let us understand more about classes. Classes are nothing without objects. So if they don't have any objects, class doesn't mean sense. We can create multiple objects from a class. Each object has all the properties and methods defined in the class, but they will have a different property value. So it has a different property values. Now objects of a class is created using a new keyword. So let me show you how do you create a object now. So we have completed till now, that is the functions, right? So I've returned the function. Now how do we create an object? So to create an object, you'll have to come out of the function, and I'll have to use dollar. I'm going to create some function. Maybe I'm going to create x, $x equals, I'm going to create new of, that is your class name. So you'll have to give your class name here. So if you give your class name and close it. So again $y is equal to, I'm going to create one more object. So there are two objects right now, that is $x and $y. So I've created two objects called $x and $y. Now what I have to do, I have to assign this object. How do we assign this? You can directly add $x of the function name which I have given here, that is the name of, I'm going to give a name called, so this was the quad, right? So I'm going to give something called quadster or something, right? So close this. Now after this, again I'm going to do it for y. In y, what I'm going to do, I am going to add one more object, one more data for that. So let me add QQ, right? So close it. Now I'll have to display it. To display it, what I'm going to do, I've created an object, and in that object I have given this particular names over there for that particular object. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to echo it. Echo $x of, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this get name to get this name. So this pointer is used to get that particular current object. So I'm going to use get name. So after that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to call this. So basically this is call. Now control save, go back, refresh it. You can see quadster is available. If you want to do it for one more, so first let me add br. So it should go to the next one. So after this, again echo $y, because second object I have initialized QQ here. So here I'm going to use this, and I'm going to use get name. So get name, same thing, refresh, go back, refresh. You can see QQ is also available here. Correct? So basically, let me explain you once again. Here I have created a function, I have assigned it to quad. Here I am returning that quad here, returning that using this pointer here. Now whatever object I am creating it here. That is $x equals new car, $y equals new car, $x is equal to this particular name I have used, $y is equal to this I have used. Again, to get that particular name, I am going to use this return. So in this return, I have already created a function. So directly you can call this function, or else you will have to write this again, right? So this is how you can create an object in classes. Now learning about this keyword. Now what is this keyword? So let me tell you, this keyword refers to the current object, and it is only available inside a method, right? So it is not available outside a method. It is only for this method. You can see this. So let me show you how. We can change the value of the name property. If I go back, I can change the value of this. There are two ways to change that. You can change inside the class and outside the class as well, by adding a set name method and use $this. Just like I showed you an example, inside a class, if you want to change the variables, you can use set name. Outside the class, by directly change the property value. Now this is an example, right? So you can see inside a class by adding a set name method and use $this, that is this keyword. So you can see $PHP, you have your PHP starting command, you have class flower is there, public name I have given, function I have given set name of name, this name is equal to name. So basically this is done. To create an object, I have created an object called lily, that is new flower. So basically flower is the class and lily is your object. Now lily also you have set name of lily. So you can display that using your echo. This is what we did in the previous example. Now outside the class, how to actually change the values outside the class. To do that, what you can use is you can, instead of having a function, you can directly add this statement. $lily of name is equal to Lily. You can, if you don't want to use a function, you can directly add it like this. Now instance of, now what is this instance of? Now you can use this instance of keyword to check if an object belongs to a specific class. To check if the object belongs to a specific class, you will have to use this thing. So let me show how to do it. In the same example, what I'm going to do, I'm going to dump the variable, that is variable dump. So let me add variable dump somewhere here, right? So variable dump. So after this, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use $x, that is the object name, space instance of. You can see this instance of space. I'm going to give the class name. Class name is car. Now close it, control save, go back, refresh it. You can see it says bool of true. Bool of true means it is of the same class. Now if I do the same thing, if I change somewhere here and refresh, it will say bool of false. That means it is not an object of this class. So it is an object of car class, but it is not an object of any other class. So it is saying bool of true. Now if you want to give BR, you can directly give it here. So let me add BR. You can see it properly now, right? So bool of true means it is the object is of the same class. If it is not of the same class, you will get an answer called as bool of false. Correct? So this is what is variable dump or instance of. Next we have is the construct function. Now what is this construct function? Also called as constructor. Right? A constructor allows you to initialize an object's properties upon creation of objects. So what does it happen is, upon when you create an object, then this particular object's properties will be initialized. Until then it will not be initialized. It will only be initialized when you create an object. So that is what is a constructor. So if you create a dash underscore construct a function, PHP will automatically call this function when you create an object from the class. Notice that construct function starts with 2 underscore. It is not 1 underscore. It is 2 underscores. So to give a function name of constructor, you will have to use 2 underscores first. Now for an example, let me show you this example. There's an example here. Okay, let me just do it and show you how do we get this output. So let me remove all of those things here right now. Right, so let me remove these functions as well. So here, let me remove this. Yes. Now what I'm going to do, I am going to, inside this particular class, I'm going to create a function now, that is function underscore underscore construct. So this is a constructor now of, I'm going to give $quad, right? Now open this particular function, and inside that function I'm going to use this pointer. I've already told you this refers to the current object. This of quad is equal to $quad, right? So I've created a function. I've closed this function as well. Again I'm going to create one more function of get name. So how to get that particular output? So function name of get, open this, return that particular thing now again, that is $this of quad, right? So after that, what I'm going to do, after that I'll come out of the function. I'm going to create an object called $x. $x will equal new car of, I'm going to create a name called, maybe I can create a name called Mercedes, right? So now I've created a car Mercedes. Now echo, what I'm going to use, $x of get name. So I'm calling that function, control save, go back, refresh it. You can see Mercedes is available here. Okay, let me check the spelling. It is Mercedes, right? Refresh, you can see the output. So basically it works as the same function, but when you use this construct function, whenever you create an object, only then the object will be initialized, or else it will not be initialized. As simple as that, right? So this is how you can use this. Now if you want to add one more argument for this, you can directly add one more argument called comma $sedan, right? So I've added one more. There are 2 arguments right now. Now for this, what you have to do, you will have to use The same thing for the second as well, right? So we'll have to use the same thing to do the second thing, that is this of f sedan equals $sedan, right? So you have done this. The same thing here also you'll have to return it. So return $this of sedan. Now here what you can do here, you can add one more, that is the second argument, second object argument. What you can do, you can add BMW here, right? So BMW maybe, yes. Now go back, refresh. Okay, let me check what happened. Mercedes, new car. Now we'll have to echo get name. Now get name is done. Get name is done for particular this, but you'll have to write one more function for sedan as well. To do that, you'll have to close this here, open. Now I'll have to write one more function. So let me add one more function for the second one, right? So that is get sedan. I'm going to use get sedan itself. Open this. Now this particular thing will work, right? So after this I can write it here. I've done it for get. Okay, let me add br first. So br echo, I'm going to use $y, or in the same thing I've used $x. So $x of, I'm going to use get sedan. This, yes. Now control save, go back, refresh. Okay, there's some return, unexpected return. Now let me think. Okay, it should not be here, right? So now it's perfect. You can see BMW, Mercedes and BMW both are here, right? So two arguments I have passed it in this particular object. So you can use this do that as well, right? So this is about your constructor. Now after constructor, we are going to learn about destructor. Destructor is nothing but the opposite of constructor, right? A destruction is called when the object is destructed or the script is stopped or exited. If you create this destruct function, PHP will automatically call this function at the end of the script. Notice that destruct function starts from 2 underscores. Remember that even constructor starts from 2 underscores, even destructor will start from 2 underscore. Now this is an example of that. So let me show you an example of how exactly to do it. For the same thing, I'm gonna take an example and show you. Let me remove this sedan here. So let me show you this first, right? So I'm gonna remove this here. For the same thing, I'm gonna remove this function as well. Let me remove this. Right, so this is done. Now what I'm going to do, this is all is the same here. Instead of destruct, you can use destruct here. Again, get name is here. Instead of get name, what you can do, you can use destruct. So destruct. So whenever it is reached at the end of the script, this is used. So in this, what you have to say, you will have to say echo the car is, open this expression, $this of, what is that particular thing which he gave? That is the quad, right? So close it using this dot. Now just close this. The same thing, you don't have to give this, remove this, close this. Instead of BMW, remove this BMW as well. Now if I go back and refresh, there's some error $x. So let me see what is that error. $x equals new car of Apple or Mercedes you have given here. Okay. I'll have to close the class here, right? So here what I'm gonna refresh. You can see the car is Mercedes. Now it will take here, right? So it will take this of quad to, it will say the car is, it will take the object element from this. So this car is Mercedes. You can see the car is Mercedes. Now for the same thing, you can add one more argument and pass it. $sedan also you can pass it. So you can do a destructor over this, right? So this is about your destructor. Next we have is access modifiers. Now what are these access modifiers? So properties and method have access modifiers which control where they can be accessed. Right, so it basically controls where can you access it. Maybe is it in a function, or is it outside a function, or it is completely outside a class, right? So these are called as access modifiers. Now basically there are three access modifiers which are used. it is called as public, protected and private. Right, so what is a private? A property or method can only be accessed within a class. So when you use this private access modifier, that means you can only access the variables or the methods within that particular class. It cannot be accessed outside the class. Right, so public. Now what is public? This property or method can be accessed from everywhere. This is default. Basically, it is accessed from everywhere if you use public. Now what happens in protected? The property or method can be accessed within the class and by classes derived from that class. So basically that is an inheritance concept. So this is what is 3 access modifiers. Now you can see this example here, right? So here if you try to set the property, it will work fine because the name property is public, right? So it is public. However, if you try to set the color or weight of the property, it will not be possible. Why? Because it is outside the class. Correct? So you can see this, it is outside the class. So let me show you this example. So let me remove this. So here what I'm going to do, I'm going to add class, I'm going to add fruit, right? So I'm going to create public, that is public space, I'm going to give the name of the fruit, right? So here I've given the name. Next I've given it as protected, I'm going to give the color, right? So again private, I'm going to give it as weight of that fruit, right? So weight, right? So after this I'm going to close the class. Now public can be utilized everywhere. As I told you, public can be used even outside the class and inside the class, right? So let me show you how do I do it. Apple, I've created an object called apple new fruit, right? So I've created an object. Now I'm going to assign it apple of, I'm going to give the name equals, I'm going to give it as apple once again here, right? So again apple of, right? So let me do this. Color, I'm going to give it as red. Again apple, I'm going to give weight, I'm going to give it as maybe 1 kg or something. Now it is very important. Let us see the output of this. Refresh. There's some error. Cannot access protected property fruit. You can see because protected can be used only by that particular class, right? Or derived from that particular class, or else it cannot be used. Even the color as well. So let me remove this and check. Refresh. You get the same error, correct? So let me remove protected and only private. Refresh. Again you have cannot access private property. But if it is public, you can use it directly. So let me show you. If it is public, refresh, you can see it. There's no error. But since it is private, you cannot access the values or variables which are given in the class, right? So this is what is your access modifiers. The next concept is your inheritance. Now what is inheritance? Inheritance in object-oriented programming is used when a class derives from another class. So whenever a class, an existing class derives from one more class, then it is called as inheritance. The child class will inherit all the public and protected properties and methods from the parent class. In addition, it can have its own properties and methods. An inherited class is defined by using the extend keywords, right? So let me show you how exactly to do it. Here is an example of this, how to actually inherit from that particular class which is given. So let me show you an example. So here, let me remove all of these things since I'm going to create it newly. So let me add, I'm going to create a new class called fruit, right? So I've created a new class called fruit. Here inside that all the 3 variables I'm going to give it as public itself so that it will be easy for me to access. So I want it to be accessed by inherited classes as well. So I'm going to use public. You can use protected as well here. So again I'm going to add public $weight. Now there are 3 things now, right? So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a function, that is public function itself. Now this public function can be accessed anywhere. So that is why I'm going to use public function of construct of name comma, I'm going to use only name and color as of now. Open this function, and inside that function, as I told you can use this operator. This of name is equal to $name. The same thing is for color as well. This of color is equal to $color, right? So this of color is equal to $color. Now after that, what I can use, I can close the function. So function is closed. I'm going to create one more function here to retrieve that. So function intro, right? So intro, open it. Now echo, I'm gonna echo it. That is, the fruit is, as I told you, if you want to display it, you can use this dollar. This of, I'm gonna display the name here. So close it again. And also you can add, and the color is same thing. Add this and color. Close this. Now after that, put a dot, semicolon. So close it, close both of the functions here. So you have closed it. Entire class is also closed. Now I will inherit this particular class. To inherit that particular class, the syntax is class. You can give class name space extends. Now this extends keyword is used to inherit the class. Extends fruit class, right? So this extend fruit. So basically the main class is your fruit and you are extending it as apple class, right? So again I'm going to give public function message of, open this, echo I am a apple. Close it. Now what you can do, you can create an object now. How do I create an object? After this closing, after all the functions, you can add apple is equal to new. You can give this class name now. You don't have to give your first class name. You can give this class name itself, that is new apple of, I'm going to give something called apple, comma, color I'm going to give it as red. Close it. Now display it. To display it, apple of, to display it, what I can do, I can use message function and intro function as well. So both the things you can do it. So how do I do it? Message of, after that again do the same thing for intro. Now close the PHP, go back, refresh. I am an apple, the fruit is apple and color is red. Now if you want to just give the space, you can click echo, refresh. You can see I am an apple, it says the fruit is apple and the color is red. Correct? So this is how you can use inheritance class. To inherit any class, you'll have to use class, class name, whatever class name you want to put it, extends the main class name, that is the primary class. This is your primary class, right? So this name you'll have to give it here. That means if this is extending this class to this, so basically whatever is inside here can be utilized by this inherited class as well. This is called as inherited class and this is called as primary class, right? So this is how you can use inheritance. The next thing you have is a class constants. Now what are these class constants? Now constants cannot be changed once it is declared. As I told you already, constants are the things which cannot be changed regularly. It has to be only once, right? So once you define the constant, that's it. You cannot change anything. But in variable, you can change the values. Now class constants can be useful if you need to define some constant data within a class. If you want to define a constant data within a class, you can use class constants. A class constant is declared inside a class with constant keyword, right? So remember this, there's a keyword called const, so it is used to define a class constant. Now class constants are case sensitive. However, it is recommended to name the constants in all uppercase letters. So if you are creating a constant, class constant, it is recommended to give it in uppercase letters, right? So let me show an example. So let me remove all of those things here. So let me remove this as well. So here what I'm going to do, class, I'm going to have hello. So my class name is hello. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to create a constant, that is constant hi equals hello world. So this is my constant. So I've closed the constant class here. Now echo space, I'm going to use hello. You'll have to use this scope identifiers to actually get that. So what I can do, I can use this. Now control save, go back and refresh. You can see hello world is appeared here. Why? Because I have created a constant. Now if I go back and change it, you cannot actually change it because this is a class constant. You cannot change it. Now this operator is called as scope resolution operator, right? So you'll have to use scope resolution operator to get the answer over there. So this is about your class constants. Again, there is one more example that we can access a constant from inside the class by using a self keyword followed by a scope resolution operator followed by a constant name like this. So you can see PHP class goodbye constant leaving message equals thank you from TechVid Labs, public function by echo self leaving message, right? So you can use this as well in your programs. Next, traits. Now what are these traits? Now PHP supports only single inheritance. It cannot support multiple inheritance, right? So that there are actually so many inheritance types which are available, but PHP supports only single inheritance. A child class can inherit only from a single parent. So what if a class needs to inherit multiple behaviors? Now this OOP traits solve this problem. So traits are used to declare methods that can be used in multiple classes. So you can use trait to declare multiple methods that can be used in multiple classes. Now traits can have methods and abstract methods that can be used in multiple classes, and the methods can have any access modifier. It can be public, it can be private, it can be protected as well, right? So you can use any three of this. So this is how you have to declare a trait. So traits are declared with a trait keyword. So trait name, and some code is inside that. So use a trait in a class, use the use keyword. So you'll have to use the use keyword also, right? So let me show you how do we actually do it. Right, so this is an example, right? So you can see trait show, public function display, right? So you can see this. So let me show you how to actually do it. So let me remove this. Right, so here what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a trait message, open this. Inside this message, I'm going to put public function message of, open this bracket, echo, I'm going to put OOP is fun. I'm going to put it in quotes. After this, close this function. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to use one more class hi, open this, use message. So directly you can use message now. So add this message. Now after that you will have to create an object. To create an object, what you can do, obj is your object, obj is equal to new hi, correct? So I'm creating an object now. So object is created. To display that, first object of message, so this particular thing. So let me show you message, this function, right? So we'll have to use this function. So message, so inside that, close it, simple. Now go back, let me close it. Yeah, it's closed. Refresh, OOP is fun. The same way you can create multiple trait messages, multiple things where any other classes can use this particular thing, right? So you can use that. Like this, you have message, you can create message 1, message 2, message 3, message 4, right? So you can use different type of messages in your programs, and you can use unlimited times. Next, we are going to learn about static methods. Now what is static methods? Static methods can be called directly without creating an instance of a class. That means without creating an object, you can call them directly. Now static methods are declared with a static keyword. You can see public static function static method, right? So this is how you have to create a static function or static methods. So let me tell you how exactly we can get the output of this. So let me remove all of this here. So here what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a class called greet, right? I'm going to open this class. In here I'm going to create a public static function space. I'm going to create hi, right? So open this. So there is a function called hi now, and there is a class called greet now. So echo hello world. So echo hello world. Now after that I'm going to close this. I'm going to close the class as well. So after closing the class, I'm going to call that. Now how do we call it? Very simple, greet and scope resolution operator, greet, class name, scope resolution operator, and your function name. So directly add your function name here. Now go back and see the output. You can see it is hello world. It is direct, right? So without creating an object, you can directly display the functions messages over here. The same way, if you want to create one more function, create one more class and create a function in that, and you can get the output, right? So this is how static methods can be used. You can create different functions in that, right? And you can also use function construct here. So let me show you how to use construct function. So after this, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create one more, that is public function. I'm going to use construct here. So let me add construct of, open this. Here I'm going to add self. Now I'm going to put hi here once again. That is the function name which I've already given there. Now instead of this greet, I can create a new greet. Close it. Now go back and refresh. You get the same output here as well, right? So there are different ways of actually creating static methods, static functions, public function, using construct, using destruct, right? So there are so many different options you can create. So after static methods, we are going to study about static properties. Now what is the static properties? Now static properties can be called directly without creating an instance. The same way static properties can also be called just like the static methods. Static properties are declared with the static keyword, right? So you can see class name of public static prop, that is $. They have used this $. So let me show you how do we do it. So here let me remove this first. Now I'm going to create a static function. For that, what I'm going to use, I'm going to use this pi. Now public static $, I'm going to give the value. So what is the value of a pi? That is 3.14159. Now close this. Now after that, again close the class. After closing the class, echo pi scope resolution operator $value. Close it now. If I want to see the output, you can go here, refresh. You can see 3.1.14159. Correct? If you want, you can directly change it here. If you want, you can give the string as well. So let me give a string, that is TechVid Labs. So if you can give the string, come back, refresh. You can see it says TechVid Labs as well. Right? So this is how we can use static properties to get the properties, right? So to access this particular static property, you will have to use this scope resolution operator. If you do not use scope resolution operator, then your program or your function will not work, right? So remember that. Now let me show you this once again. So let me explain you this once again properly. As you can see, this is the databases which are available. Last time I showed you how to log in and the persons here, right? So I told you to display it as well. So to display it, what you can use this form / again display.php. All the data which is available here will be displayed here using a table. So like this, you can create tables, forms, data, and everything in your page, right? So it depends on what exactly you want to display it as, right? So this is about your database, and this is about your static methods, object-oriented programming of PHP, right? So this is a different thing from normal OOP, because in normal OOP there are so many different options available, but in PHP there are only limited number of options available. Just like inheritance, only single inheritance is possible in OOP, PHP OOP, but in regular OOPs there are single inheritance, multiple inheritance, multi-level inheritance, correct? So there are so many other inheritance, abstraction methods, encapsulation methods, right? All those things are available in OOPS. But in PHP OOP, these are the only few things which are available. So remember that you have to understand only these things in PHP. If you are using PHP OOP, you'll have to understand these things, right?